Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about a somewhat slightly different subject than we've been doing. Still the issue of coping with COVID, but today I want to talk about how the pandemic is affecting us, not from a virus perspective, but from a mental perspective, such that a lot of chronic diseases are not going to be held at bay, in check. And one of them is dementia. Now, living here in the retirement community, I would think it's fair to say that most of us, well, we don't want to get heart disease, we don't want to get diabetes, we don't want to get lung disease, but the one we're probably most afraid of is some form of dementia, Alzheimer's disease. Now, I should back up and say the virus we know does affect the brain. People you've probably read about have brain fog, have confusion, some even get strokes. I don't want to talk about the direct impact of the virus on the brain. I want to talk about what the impact of being in this pandemic is having on us as people, and as a result, the impact it's having on our brains. Hope that makes a little sense. So here's just a little factoid for you. Our brains, not the whole skull, but just our brains, are about 4% of our body weight. Yet about 20% of our blood goes to the brain. So it's pretty active up there. A lot of metabolism going on, a lot of activity. And that happens during the night too, in sleep. So just that little thing. Now, we've talked about this before. As we age, our bodies age. We all know that. But what's happening? Every single organ, every single function declines by about 1% per year, starting at young age, maybe 20, 30, in that age range. So 1% per year. We know that as we get older, we have less muscle mass, our bones are more brittle, our GI tract doesn't absorb as well, and we know we're a little bit more forgetful. So everything, including the brain, has that decline. But, and this is the important but part, so first of all, 1% is an average. Some go faster, some go slower. Some organs go faster, some organs go slower. But we, as individuals, can control that to a point with our lifestyles. Can't stop it. We're all going to get older. We'll all have a birthday next year. We'll still be a year older. But we can slow the process down with our lifestyles. Here's the rub. Right now, the pandemic, it scares us. We're frustrated. We're fatigued. There's a lot of stuff going on, and when that happens, we start slipping on what we eat. I think I'll have a second dose of ice cream today. How about some more cookies? And maybe just a little bit more in the glass with my drink tonight. All those things, that's just one part of it. Eating, we're not getting out and around, we're not exercising, our stress level's going up, we're not sleeping as well. We're certainly not getting the intellectual stimulation that we used to have by going to ELIC courses and things like that. And the social engagement, well, that's what this in Charlestown's all about. But it's hard now. We can't do the things we used to do. So all those things combined is having an impact actually on all of our organs. I just wanted to focus on the brain today because it's so important. We all think about it so much. So just bear that in mind, and let's just talk for a minute about chronic stress. Chronic stress, we all have it, some more than others, but when we're just chronically stressed like this, our bodies are pouring out, literally, adrenaline, cortisol, other chemicals, and they cause inflammation. It's okay, you hear that big truck coming at you, you run out of the way. That's normal. But when you have a lower level that's always there, it's putting out and creating inflammation in your heart arteries, in your joints, in your gut, and in your brain. Chronic stress and the inflammation that comes from it is probably the underlying cause of most of the chronic illnesses that we develop. Let me say that again. It's the underlying cause of most of the chronic diseases we develop, including dementia. So, what are you going to do about it? There it is. We need to deal with it. We've got to reduce it. And each of us has to stop and be aware of it and figure out ways to bring it down. So let's talk about a little bit of that. You've heard me talk about this before, the 7 keys to healthy aging. So we're going to go through 7 key steps. Nothing here will be a surprise to you, I don't think. But let's start with what we eat. We need to eat because we're older. We need less calories. We're not as active as we used to be. We need less calories, but our guts can't absorb nutrients like they used to. So we need more nutrients. Now that's a conundrum, isn't it? We have to eat less calories, but we have to eat more nutrients. Well, you know what that means? It means vegetables. Vegetables and fruit. So that's got to be the bit. You've heard me talk about the Mediterranean diet and the pyramid from that. Down at the bottom of it is vegetables and fruits, but also foods that have good, healthy oils in them. Nuts and seeds, olives, olive oil. And just above that, fish. Particularly the fatty fishes like salmon, mackerel, sardines. Up at the top of the pyramid, just a little teeny thing up there should be sugar. Sugar's our mortal enemy, and we eat too much sugar, especially when we're stressed. We want the cake, the pie, the cookies, we want the soda. Alcohol, of course, converts to sugar as well. So we eat a lot of sugar when we're stressed. And we're sitting on that sofa, kind of like a couch potato, watching TV, you know, into the potato chip bag here and into whatever over here. So our diet is not good. What we need to do, again, is really increase the amount of vegetables we eat, the amount of fruits, just things I just mentioned, more fish, cut back heavily on anything with sugar in it, which unfortunately is all the stuff we want right now, the comfort foods. The second thing is exercise. The most important thing we can do for ourselves is to get out every day, or at least 6 days a week, and get a half hour of just walking around. Great if you can do more, but if you do just that much, it makes a huge difference. Better yet is to get some resistance exercises. Add those in. But at a minimum, get that walk every day for at least a half an hour. You don't have to run, you don't have to jog, you don't have to be really active about it, but you just need to get out and moving. And that's the key thing. Third thing, stress. How are we going to get the stress down? Well, the most important thing about dealing with stress is to try and get the stressors out of the way. Can't do that right now. It's here. Pandemic's here. It's not going away. Yes, we're getting our vaccines soon. That's going to make a huge difference. But we're still going to have to wear our masks. We're still going to have to social distance. We're going to have to clean our hands for quite some time. So we've got to find other things that we can do to reduce the stress, since we can't get rid of the virus right now. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, good exercise and good diet make a huge difference in how we interpret internally stresses. The other thing, though, is to do things like meditation and yoga and deep breathing. Those 3 things. Meditation, you can go and on your smartphone put an app on your phone. The one I happen to like is called Insight Timer. Insight Timer. It's free. They'll try and build you up, you know, charge you up to something more, but you don't need that. They've got tons of meditation aids in there. Yoga, of course, we've got it right here, so you can get your yoga right here on campus. And as far as breathing is concerned, just think about this. When you breathe in, say a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6 to 8. So the out is longer than the in. Just do that to yourself for a minute or 2 minutes. What that does is it sends a message to the brain, and the brain in turn sends a message back down through the vagus nerve to increase the parasympathetic activity. That's our stress reliever side, instead of the sympathetic, which is the stress builder, the accelerator. You want your foot on the brake, not the accelerator. And so each of these things, meditation, yoga, and deep breathing, using that in for 4, out for 6 to 8, will give you that advantage. Now, next thing is sleep. Now, I'll tell you something I did the other night that I shouldn't have done. I looked at Facebook around 10 o'clock at night. And a friend of mine had something in there that was really, it was about the current political situation, but it got my head just going like this. I could not fall asleep. So, again, you've heard me say this before. You want a completely dark room, a completely quiet room, no lights. Go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every morning. A schedule, a habit, if you like, helps you sleep better. Don't look at Facebook. Don't look at a TV show the hour before you go to bed, which is excitatory, you know, a trauma show, you know, a cop and robber show, whatever. You want something that's going to be kind of settling down, maybe something humorous. Or read something that's not, again, excitatory. All that will help you sleep. We as older people still need 7.5 hours of sleep at night. But we get up frequently during the night to go to the bathroom. And the other thing is, sleep goes in cycles. You need about 5 cycles a night. Each one's about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. And we come in and we go down into this deep sleep, and then we come, and it's while we're in this deep sleep that our brain cleans itself out. And so that's very important. And then it comes back up and we're almost awake, and that's when we dream for 15 or 20 minutes. Then we go back down and up and down. When you're older, coming back up, you're really on the edge of being awake. And if your bladder seems full, you'll wake up. Maybe you have trouble going back to sleep again. So the key for us older people is to not drink too much right before you go to bed, and yet you need to drink during the day so you've got plenty of fluids going around. And sometimes maybe you just roll back over and you'll go back to sleep easily enough. But if your brain's been agitated, as I was talking about before, it's going to be harder to go back to sleep. The other problem we have as older people is we don't go into as much a deep sleep. And we need that deep sleep to get, you know, to clean our brain out of the toxins that have built up over the course of the day. So just remember that sleep is very important. It's not true that older people need less sleep. They don't. We don't. We need as much, if not more. Now, I mentioned before, we've got to be careful not to eat or drink things we shouldn't, or not too much of them at least, or smoke them. Tobacco is a total no-no. Alcohol is okay in moderation, but you know, you can slip over the line on the moderation pretty easily, especially when you're stressed, so beware of that. Now, intellectual stimulation, we need to keep it working. You know, the old thing about use it or lose it. Our brain needs to be challenged. It needs to be challenged all the time. My wife has a friend, Carol has a friend, who's an artist like she is. He's not painting right now. He said, I needed something a little bit more challenging. He said, I've taken up Chinese, I'm learning the Chinese language. I think that's a real intellectual challenge. But the point of it is, this is what we need. Whether it's music, art, writing, Chinese, or another language, dancing, so on. You know, a complicated game like chess, for example. These are all things that challenge our brains, and when our brain is challenged, it literally lays down new pathways, and that's very important for it. And I forgot to mention before about exercise. If you exercise regularly, a part of the brain called the hippocampus actually enlarges, and that's just what we need, because like everything else in the body, it's getting smaller, but if we exercise enough, it just gets larger again. And that's the part of our brain, might call that the processor part of the brain, the short-term processor before it pushes things out to other parts of the brain to store it. Now, social engagement. It's hard. Hard to interact with people if you got a mask on. Hard to interact with people if you're out 6 feet apart. Hard if you can't go to meetings like we used to, can't go to lectures, can't go to here, can't go to there, can't go to a restaurant in town, or whatever the case may be. So we have to make do, though. It's very important to our brains, to our sense of who we are, to have interactions with other people. So you got to find a way to do it that works for you. It might be Zooming. Sure, it's not as good as a meeting, but it's good. It's okay. Or Skype, or just the phone, or email. whatever works for you, but we really need it. It's very, very important. So those are those 7 keys: diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, be careful with alcohol and tobacco, no tobacco, careful with alcohol, intellectual challenges, and social engagement. If you work on all of those, it'll make a huge impact on, of course, all of your body, but we're just focused today on the brain. This will help us not to have our brain function go down too fast. It's going to go down some, but if we can slow that slope, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So those are my words of the day. If I do a little advertising now, you'll forgive me, but remember there's a book called Longevity Decoded, The 7 Keys to Healthy Aging. If you want to learn more about what I was just talking about, go take a look at that and go to Amazon, for example. But you don't need to do that. Just follow those 7 things I just said. You'll be in great shape. Thanks very much.